It wasn't too hot out there today, Rube. I sweated a little bit, but it wasn't awful.
I thought it was a pretty nice day for training camp.
Yeah. There was a
Yeah,
breeze.
yeah, it was a little breeze. It wasn't oppressive. I mean, it was like low 80s, but it's summertime, so yeah, it was good football weather.
Yeah, and it felt great to be out there. The Eagles held their first practice of the 2021 training camp, Nick Sirianni's first training camp. Not our first rodeo, but it was really good to be back out there. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast with Ruben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We're going to get into some observations from the actual practice, some big notes from the post practice availability with coaches and players and front office staff, and we'll also talk about the vaccine stuff because it's a big deal in the NFL right now. The Eagles seem to be doing fairly well with it, but first off, Rube, you almost didn't make it to practice today. What happened?
Yeah, I was a little nervous at one point, and we all had to get tested this morning to be in the top tier of media, whatever, the ones that get to be in the interviews and press conferences and up close to the field, which is what I guess 25 of us.
Yeah.
So we had to get there early and get COVID tested, which we all did. And then they were going to text us or call us with the results. Well, my results came back invalid. You were already on the field. Most of the guys had already gone in. It was like the only guys left out there were, I think, me and there was like one or two other people out there. And it was like 5 of 10. Practice is about to start, and they still don't have my results. And they said, we might have to retest you, and they're going to run your results again and try to get a reading. So finally, I was right at the door waiting to go in, and Allie Waddington, the PR person who's kind of overseeing it all, finally said, go, you're good. So I made a break for the practice field and got there just as practice was starting. But yeah, I thought I might have to. And the funny thing is, like, if you're a fan, you don't have to get tested, and they're standing in a different spot. So I understand that. But for us to get in and do our jobs the way we need to, we have to get tested, and we will, I guess, throughout the season. I think we will every couple of weeks.
Yeah, it seems like every couple of weeks. It took about the time they told me it would take for me, and I was still like sweating because I like getting out there really early because I take attendance. If I were you, I would have been losing it.
Yeah, well, this is my 34th training camp. I've gotten flat tires. I've gotten stuck in traffic, and I got stuck behind a car that was on fire once going to Westchester. So I've seen it all, and I'm usually there on time. So I figured it would work out.
It always feels great to be back, though. Even last year's, that was the thing. Like last year, as unusual as the season was, the one kind of normal thing was watching practice.
Yeah.
Afterwards, everything was different, but watching practice, it was like, all right, that's a football practice. That's normal. So it felt good to be out there, and it felt good to do some interviews in person after the practice was over. They're not one-on-one interviews; they're still group podium settings. But today was the first time I asked Jalen Hurts a question face to face.
It was the first time we've talked to players in person since locker cleanout day in 2019.
Yeah, and that's not just good for us. We don't want to get too deep into media roles and all that stuff, but I think players like that too. Imagine being asked a really tough question through a computer screen. It adds a personal element to it. You feel like you're actually having human contact again, which is nice. And hopefully we'll see. Hopefully we're able to do this throughout the year and we don't regress. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, it just felt really good to be back. My favorite Eagle, Noah from the Elmwood Park Zoo was there as always. Happy to see him.
Jake and Elwood Park Zoo. Yeah, Noah was there. Noah's in, I think, the best shape of his life.
Yeah, best shape of his career. He leaned up, he leaned down a little bit this offseason. He's been hitting the weights pretty hard, so
yeah,
he's ready to go. In his prime, entering his prime right now.
Yeah. Noah's had a good run, but I think still has some pretty high goals.
For those of you who are really lost right now, and I expect you to be, including Roob, Noah is from the zoo, and he's out there for fans to take photos of, and he hangs
Noah's
out.
an eagle.
Noah is a bald eagle. Yes, he's an actual eagle, which is why
Actually,
he's my favorite. Yeah.
so the
All right.
roster is actually at 91.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from Noah the Eagle to the most serious topic in the NFL right now, vaccines. And regardless of whatever you personally think about vaccines, the NFL has clearly incentivized teams and players to get vaccinated. There are clear rules set in place that is basically urging everyone to get vaccinated. Every coach and front office member pretty much has to be vaccinated to do their job correctly. We saw the whole situation with Rick Dennison in Minnesota, and he's no longer a position coach. He's now a consultant because he can't be there physically. The players are not required to be vaccinated, but there are advantages, clear advantages for players to be vaccinated, for teams to reach the 85% threshold, and then for individual players themselves to be vaccinated. And it seems like the Eagles are doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. And, from a purely football standpoint, it's something that teams really want because there's two sets of rules for vaccinated players and unvaccinated players, and they're widely divergent. I mean, there's a huge difference. Unvaccinated players can only use the weight room in a small group. They can't eat in the cafeteria, or they can, but they can't eat with their teammates. They can't use the hot tub or the sauna. They can't sit within 6 feet of teammates in meeting rooms. They can't, there's all these things they can't do that vaccinated players can do. So, if you're a coach, you want your team together. And Brandon Graham even made this point, which I thought was a great point, that, Doug Peterson is so big on togetherness and unity. And it really hurt him last year when they couldn't have that. He said, what did BG say? Like the 6 feet thing really killed Doug last year. And I really believe that. I think you lose something when you have, and the closer you are to 50%, the more factionalized your locker room can be. Well, you have this group here and they want to know why these guys aren't getting the vaccine, and, they can't sit with them at meetings and they can't eat with them. And like, if the secondary wants to eat as a group, have lunch together, they can't do it. So, and the other part of it is, if a team forfeits because of a COVID outbreak, nobody on the team gets paid. The vaccinated guys don't get paid. So the team you're playing doesn't get paid, even if they're fully vaccinated. So there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of incentive for players to get it. It has nothing to do with politics, has nothing to do with, and my Twitter timeline is a train wreck right now with people arguing about it, but it's not even the point. Your own feelings about this, but
yeah, the point is the NFL has set these rules and the teams and players have to abide by them.
Yeah. So 90%, and I think Howie said over 90%, over 90%
in the process
have begun the process. So we've gotten one shot, or the J&J shot, or the one shot of two. He said over 90%, which out of 90 players, that means you're talking about 8 guys who haven't gotten a shot, 8 or fewer. It could be 7. So that's a really important thing. That's a bond that those guys, have together. They can do things together. They can eat together, lift together, congregate off the practice field together. And if there's a big roster decision at when roster final cuts are made on August 31st or whenever it is, if there's 2 guys that are close, why would a team keep the unvaccinated guy? I mean, you're hurting your chances, unless you're a really established guy. You're hurting your chances to make the team if you're not vaccinated, because they're not going to keep you, because you're a risk to the team and to the program and to the season.
I mean, legally and technically, they're not allowed to cut a player because he's not vaccinated. Right. But it's really hard to prove. And you're right. I mean, if it comes down to 2 guys and they're pretty comparable, that's probably going to be the deal breaker. And honestly, it's probably going to be the first question. If the Eagles at a certain point need a cornerback and they're trying to find someone off the street, they're going to opt for a guy who's vaccinated.
Yeah. If Julian Vandervelde had never gotten vaccinated, he would have not gotten signed 17 times. And the other part of it is, Alex Singleton, for example, is on the COVID list this morning. We don't know if he's been vaccinated. Mathematically, there's a pretty good chance he has. If he has, he can get back to practice just by 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. he can be back in practice in a couple of days. If he's not vaccinated, he's got to isolate for 10 days minimum before he can even think about coming back. So if you're trying to make the team and you test positive or, close contact, you're going to miss a week and a half of practice at a minimum if you're not vaccinated. So there's a lot that goes into it that really, really gives players a lot to think about.
Yeah, and the rules are if you're vaccinated and you test positive, you're right. It's 2 negative tests at least 24 hours apart. If you're unvaccinated, it's 10 days minimum. And also close contacts. If you have a close contact and you're vaccinated, you don't have to isolate. You don't have to quarantine. If you're unvaccinated, it's 5 days. So once we get into the season, we're talking about missed games. That's a big deal. And without mentioning his name, because I got yelled at by a lot of listeners last week, the quarterback in Indianapolis, he declined to say whether or not he was vaccinated. And
Andrew Luck?
not Andrew Luck.
Oh.
Yeah, the other one. Which, I mean, if look, we're kind of taking steps
Jack
there.
Trudeau.
But if at a certain point he misses games because of it, that'll obviously hurt the Colts, but it might hurt the Eagles because we know that that draft pick is tied to his playing time percentages. So that's something the Eagles will be watching from afar.
Yeah, and I think there was a report. I believe it was Rob Mattei's report from AP. I think he's now like the national AP's national football guy. That the Colts were right around 50%. This is something that can split a team. It can split a locker room. If you're around 50%, now you have the vaccinated guys, you have the unvaccinated guys. If you're at 90%, you don't have that. Maybe a very small, but I think 50-50 or close to it is a really dangerous place to be, just beyond the COVID implications, just from a football togetherness, then you have the us against them. You have, it's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, it is. And NFL locker rooms are typically places where you'll have debates about everything from sports, religion, politics. And I'm sure this has been a pretty hot topic in NFL locker rooms in recent weeks, months, and even over the last year, I guess. That's all I have on vaccines. You got anything else?
No. I think 90% is probably one of the higher figures. And Kelsey said, let's do for 100%. So, we'll see. I don't know if we'll get any more updates on that, but it's definitely a good sign. And I think it reflects well on Nick as well. I mean, it shows that the players are, because I'm sure there's some players that wouldn't have gotten it otherwise who got it for football reasons. So
sure.
It's definitely encouraging.
Yeah. All right. Zach Ertz, he was there today. He showed up to training camp. He was on the practice field, and it wasn't like he just showed up. Sometimes when there's a guy in some sort of dispute, he'll show up to make sure he doesn't get fined, but they don't really put him out there. Zach Ertz was out there. He was in position drills. He was in 11-on-11 drills. It's not like they're keeping him in bubble wrap in case they can trade him. He's practicing.
Yeah, and that was a little bit surprising, but I think it's the strongest sign yet that he's going to be here. And Howie pretty much said, yeah, he'll be here on opening day. So interesting. We all watched as Howie and Zach had a long conversation, probably 10 minutes, close to 10 minutes after practice, off on a side field or on the field, but after practice. I think it was just the two of them. One of the PR guys might have been there. I think Brett might have been there at the end, but really interesting.
No one threw anything. No one screamed.
No,
as far as we could tell.
As far as we could tell, they also didn't hug it out when it was over. There was no handshake or fist bump or anything. Howie just walked away. Zach obviously did not. I mean, Zach did not do interviews today. Hopefully, he talks at some point fairly soon. I'd love to know what he's thinking.
I think he will. By the way.
Yeah, knowing Zach, he will, and he'll probably start crying.
I get the sense he wants to give his side of everything.
Yeah. But if they can, I mean, and again, if he stays here, he gets $8.5 million. If they cut him, that money it doesn't exist anymore. That contract's gone, and he's going to go sign somewhere for $3 million. Now, if he gets traded, that goes with him. But the fact that he's still here in July, at the end of July, tells you they're in no hurry to trade him. So, and that's a lot of money to trade. If I had to guess at this point, I would guess he'll be here when the season begins. Now, he could still get traded at some point if an offer gets significantly better. But the last thing you want is a distraction. And I think the fact that Zach took part in everything and went out and did his job. We saw him over by the jugs machine while we were doing interviews. He was catching balls. That guy's a pro, and he's going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah. What did you think of his hair?
I did not like his hair very much, but I'm not really going to talk. But
he went really, really bleach blonde to the point where he walked out, and I did a double take. I thought it looked like he was like undercover, like he didn't think anyone would recognize him.
Well, he had the same number.
Yeah, that didn't help his cause.
Makes it kind of easy to spot him. You could see that hair under his helmet. That's how bright it was, But hey, if it works for him, go for it.
Yeah, it was interesting when they were in 11-on-11s. Dallas Goedert was the first tight end in there. Zach did rotate in. He was with the first team, but Dallas Goedert was the first guy out there. And that's honestly the way it should be. If Zach Ertz is here this year, it can't be at the expense of playing Dallas Goedert. It just can't be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'm sure that's not an easy thing to take if you're Zach Ertz, because he might catch 30 balls this year, might catch 35 balls. I don't know. But, Dallas Goedert has to be TE1 at this point in his career.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I still think their Eagles are a better team with Ertz.
No question.
But I also think organizationally it still makes more sense to trade him if they can.
Yeah, but like Howie said all along, we're not going to give him away. We don't know.
And that's also why the devil's advocate in me, the skeptic, when Howie says he expects him to be here week 1, he's not going to throw away leverage like that. He's not going to say, well, yeah, hopefully someone will bring in an offer. That's a leverage play, and it doesn't mean it's going to work, but he's certainly not going to stand up there and let us know that he's trying to trade him.
I still think if he's offered a 3, he'll take it.
A 3, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think.
You think that's what it would take?
I think it would take a 3. Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if they're getting that.
I don't think they are.
I don't think they're getting that.
I don't think they are either. But who knows? Maybe a team loses a guy to an injury early on and is desperate. He's 30. He had a bad year last year. He looked slow-footed, I thought, most of the year. He was hurt. He's going into what, year 9? Year 9. You don't get premium draft. You don't get premium draft picks for players that age who are even better or at a different point than him in his career. So I don't see it, but I don't think he would do it for a 4 or 5. I could be wrong, but I think he'll be here.
Well, I'm still on the side that I don't think he'll be here.
Okay.
Come week 1, but we'll see. I mean, we have 45 days, 46 days before the opener. A lot can happen in that time. How about Jalen Hurts?
45 days. Yeah.
Well, it depends on if you're counting. Yeah. Jalen Hurts, not named the starting quarterback. They still refuse to call him quarterback 1. He's QB1. We all know he's QB1. I think that what they're doing is pretty clear. They're giving him a signal and they're trying to put a chip on. I don't think any of that stuff really matters. Jalen Hurts understands the situation. And he's their starting quarterback. Joe Flacco is not going to be the starting quarterback.
No, and Nick even said, he's earned the right to get the first team reps. So, I mean, he got the first team reps. He's a starting quarterback. And when the coach says he's earned, with all the work he's done during the offseason, he's earned all the first team reps, that's saying he's the starting quarterback. I mean, that's the starting quarterback gets first team reps. If you see Joe
over
Flacco,
under 1 snap for Joe Flacco with the first team in training camp.
I'm sorry, say that again. What's the
Over under 1 snap for Joe Flacco with the first team in training camp.
Oh, he'll get reps with the first team.
You think so?
Yeah, because at some point, like Jalen will have to like run off the field and get his helmet fixed, or get his ankle retaped or something.
Maybe trick plays. Maybe they'll keep Jalen on the field and run 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, but I'll take the over.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're probably right, but it's pretty clear Jalen Hurts is a starter. I really liked his answer. He was asked about.
I like all his answers, by the way.
He speaks in T-shirt slogans.
He does.
He does, and some of them. It's funny. I like them. I do like them. Some of them, I hear them and I think back, like, what does that even mean? I don't even know what that means. What do you say today? The lamp isn't full or something. I was like, that's good. What does that mean exactly? But yeah, he is very thoughtful, and he was asked about trade rumors. No one today said the name Deshaun Watson, but he was brought up without naming him, or no one in
2 quarterbacks whose names we're not going to use.
I'm allowed to say Deshaun Watson, right?
Okay.
I didn't say the other one. Give me credit.
No, you're doing better today.
But look, Howie Roseman was asked about Deshaun Watson without his name being said, and Jalen Hurts was too. And Jalen Hurts said, "I'm above it all. Like, I'm above that. I'm not thinking about that." The difference is between him and the last quarterback. I believe him.
Yeah, that's a good point. He seems so laser focused, and he really, he just keeps everything so simple. And he's asked like 100 questions about the same thing 100 ways, and he said, all I can do is focus on getting better today and getting better tomorrow, and improving as a player and learning the offense and going out and working and practicing. It's like it's so streamlined, I think, in his head, which is really, really good. I don't know if he'll be a successful quarterback, but I love his approach, and I love his attitude. There's no excuses. There's no. It's all just work and get better, and everything else will take care of itself. Be myself, whatever he's asked. I mean, he's just got this like simple, streamlined. There's no clutter up there. It's like he just gets right to the point. Some of his answers are like so short, and then you're like, well, you answered the question in 8 words. So, some other guys might just go on and on and on, and, go in a lot of different directions. You compare like him with Marty, some other people, but he's an impressive kid.
Yeah, there's poise there, and it's poise of a veteran, and it's pretty easy talking with him for a minute or 2 minutes to understand why his teammates gravitate toward him. I think there is, as much as the leadership stuff gets overblown a lot, I think he has those natural tendencies, and it's easy to see. And he's wise about it too, though. He said, like, obviously I want to be a leader. His position inherently makes him a leader, but if he sucks, no one's listening to him, or if he's not putting in the work, no one's listening to him. And he knows that. So, the one thing I know about Jalen Hurts is if he fails in the NFL, it won't be for lack of effort.
Right.
It just won't be.
Yeah, you're right. And sometimes being yourself players respond to that, and you can see they gravitate toward him. This is a team with a lot of young receivers. They all look up at him, look up to him. And I think some of the older guys seem to as well. You're right. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go, but I know that if it doesn't work out, it's not because he had a bad attitude or didn't work hard enough or didn't put in the time, because he's doing all that.
Yeah, and the Eagles have been pretty consistent, at least Howie and Nick have. They I think this is the second time they've said it. They want him to take the reins of the job and go with it. We'll see if he can. I don't think we'll know that answer for a while, but we're going to be watching every move he makes all summer and all season. It's going to be fun because he is an exciting player. You can vary on your evaluation of him. How good can he be? But he's clearly an exciting player, and we're going to see that. We're going to see that all summer, and that's fun.
Yeah. I had something else and it slipped my mind. I was thinking of how to say it without mentioning someone's name. But yeah, I don't think he had a particularly great day today.
No.
But first day running the new offense, that's going to happen.
Yeah, the one answer from Nick Sirianni's press conference that I found really interesting, John Clark, our colleague, asked about his mechanics. And Sirianni said, we don't really like to mess with, he gave a really specific answer, I thought, that they don't really like to mess with the quarterback's throwing mechanics as much as he's more concerned about his feet and making sure his footwork is in line with what they want to do in the offense. And we already saw today, and we'll get into the practice obs in a minute here, but we already saw some read option type plays where they're going to utilize his legs, even if they're a decoy on certain plays. They're going to utilize his legs to give defenses pause. And that's wise, but I get what Sirianni is saying is his footwork has to be perfect. You can't have his feet going one way and his body. The footwork is what they need to control within the offense. The throwing motion is a throwing motion. They can work on it, but that's going to fall in line after his feet. So I thought it was a really specific and detailed answer from Sirianni, and it was good to hear.
Is that when he smacked his hand down on the table?
He might have done that a few times. He was fired up today.
He scared Howie a couple of times. Howie's sitting right to his right and smacks his head. Howie's like, what the hell? Yeah. What else?
Okay, want to go through some practice obs?
Let's do it.
Cool. Let's start off with a few housekeeping notes. This is what I normally do. Rodney McLeod, LaRaven Clark on the PUP list. Both of those guys coming back from ACL injuries, or actually Rodney's an ACL, LaRaven Clark is an Achilles, I believe.
Yep.
Both not ready for the start of training camp. And in order for any player to end up on the reserve PUP in the season, they have to start off on this active PUP during training camp. So it's basically for players who have been injured playing football and they're not ready to go yet. I think Rodney is clearly farther ahead than LaRaven Clark, who did nothing today. Rodney was on a side field working out. His goal is still week 1.
Yeah, and you guys know the PUP rules. Once you are off PUP, you can't go back on. You have on final cut day, the Eagles have to either put you on regular season PUP, put you on the 53, or cut you. And once you're on regular season PUP, 5 weeks, then they have a window, 6 weeks, you can't play, and then there's a window where they could activate you. And then Landon Dickerson is on a different list, but it's the same rules, the non-football, because he can't be on PUP because his injury did not occur while he was in the NFL. It occurred in the SEC championship game when Alabama beat Florida in Atlanta in December. So same rules apply, same deadlines, same dates, just a different list.
Yeah, and I think technically they don't have to pay players on the NFI because normally it's reserved for guys who like wreck a motorcycle, but yeah. I think they're probably going to pay Landon Dickerson.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, they're going to pay him. Money. All right, so those guys aren't practicing yet. We mentioned Alex Singleton on the COVID list. Also, Andrew Adams and Matt Leo, the defensive end from Australia. Andrew Adams is the one that's probably hurt the most because I don't think he's a roster lock, whereas Matt Leo's not making the roster and Alex Singleton is. I think their statuses are pretty clear, even though Singleton might lose some playing time eventually. But with Adams, I think he's fighting for a roster spot. I don't think he's a lock. So
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, him missing time isn't good for him.
Yeah. But it's early, so we'll see when he comes back.
It is early. Some quick injury news. Jalen Reagor limited with a lower body injury. Quez Watkins day-to-day. Still completing his physical was what the Eagles said. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on there. The most significant one is Isaac Seumalo has a hamstring injury. He's week to week. That's actually a pretty big injury, not for him, but for that left tackle competition, because they want to see those left tackles next to the guy they're going to play next to, and now they can't for a couple weeks here.
Week to week, when they call it week to week, that's a pretty significant injury. So, yeah, Herbie was in there. We'll get to that in the depth chart look, but Yeah, that's fair to say. And the work that they do together, Sayamalo and the two left tackles, is crucial to the whole evaluation process. So they're not going to have that. I mean, you can still evaluate them, and they have a decent, solid guy in there. I played more right guard last year, but anytime they say week to week, you just, that's significant.
Yeah. And the last noteworthy injury here was Greg Ward Jr. He's day to day with a non-COVID illness. So hopefully he'll be back on the field soon, because the depth charts get a little wonky when guys are missing. We're not really sure what's real and what isn't. He obviously wasn't out there with the punt return team, and in the first team offense, he was missing. But maybe he would have been missing in the first team offense anyway. We don't know that, and we won't know that until he gets back. But let's go through some depth chart notes. Obviously, Jalen Hurts with the first team. Andre Dillard and Jordan Mailata split first team reps, but Dillard was in there first. And I didn't chart how many, but it felt like he got the bulk of the first team snaps today. Would you agree with that?
It seemed that way. And there weren't a lot of snaps. It was not a long practice. What were they out there, about an hour 20?
Less than that. Yeah, hour 15.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry is off by 300 seconds, Dave. But yeah, it did seem to me like Dillard. But again, tomorrow, Mailata might get more reps. So, we'll see how that goes. We'll keep an eye on it. I have a feeling there'll be a left tackle update in your observations every day.
I would love that. That would make me real happy. Center Jason Kelsey, right guard Brandon Brooks, right tackle Lane Johnson. Brooks and Lane look good to go. I mean, they looked fine to me. I watched Brooks a little. It's tough to watch everything closely on the first day. Normally the way I do it is I kind of try to watch everything the first day, and then days after that I hone in on certain things. Brooks, I tried to watch him. He looks strong.
I thought so too.
Yeah, he looks.
I thought they both looked good. Again, first day, these guys don't have any lingering, soreness or anything. But yeah, they both look fine. All three of those older O linemen on the right side look good.
Yeah. Wide receivers. The first team, I remember, no Jalen Reagor, no Quez Watkins, no Greg Ward.
Not a Jamon Osborne.
Yeah. DeVonta Smith, Travis Fulgham were outside, and J-Jaw was the slot. Big slot.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of other options considering who's here, who's not.
You're right.
Here.
They're mostly, but they did talk about in the spring getting J-Jaw into the slot position a little bit more. I think those guys are going to be interchangeable, or at least some of them. I think at times we'll see DeVonta in there for matchups. I think Reagor will be one who ends up in the. I'm really curious when Reagor gets back where he plays.
Yeah, you're big on the Reagor in the slot, and we'll see. It's such a specific skill, and some guys just are just not suited to it. But
I think he is. Give me shallow crossers with Jalen Reagor all day. That's
Greg Ward just is such a perfect match for that position. He's not going to put up huge numbers, but I'm looking forward to seeing Reagor in the slot. Definitely.
Yeah, me too. But it'll be interesting. Do they put him in the slot when he comes back and keep Fulgham outside, or is Reagor the outside and they put, when Ward comes? I want to know how it's all going to play out, and I think they're probably going to mix and match a lot throughout the summer to try to figure it out. It's funny. I was thinking about it today. For the last year and a half since Ward's been here, and I like Greg Ward as a player, but I've kind of been saying I think they need a more explosive player in that position. And we show up today and J-Jaw is out there in the slot. That's not exactly what I had in mind, but we'll see what happens when the rest of the guys get healthy.
Yeah.
All right. How about defense? They didn't waste any time. Darius Slay on one side, Steven Nelson on the other, Avonte Maddox and the nickel. This is exactly what we knew they were going to do. I was curious to see if Nelson would be in a position already to be out there, full go, CB2, and he was. And that's a good sign. It means he's picking up the playbook pretty quickly, and that's good. And then the rest of the secondary with no Rodney, it was Anthony Harris and Kayvon Wallace. Well, I think Kayvon Wallace is going to – we talked about this on the last pod. I think he's going to end up having a significant role on this team.
Yeah, these are good reps for him. I mean, he'll – that's always – when you have a guy hurt, that's always the flip side of it is the young guys are getting more work there. So, he's certainly got to keep an eye on it. I think him and Davion Taylor are the two guys that are, benefiting from that right now, the two picks from last year. So, yeah, I think Kayvon's got a chance. We'll see how it goes here for him. It's good work for him.
Yeah, and you mentioned Taylor. He was out there with Eric Wilson as the two backers and the nickel, which is pretty much the base package at this point in the NFL. That's important for him to get those reps with the ones. And did he even get, I'm trying to think back to last year. I think he was with the threes at a certain point last year. So the fact that he's playing significant snaps, if this new coaching staff likes him, that'd be a big boost for Howie, because they invested a 3 in this guy. So he needs to play this year.
Yeah. Year two, a third round pick needs to be on the field.
I mean, you get 4 years with a guy under contract. And if it's a 7th round pick like Jordan Mailata, you can sink a 7 into it and say, well, if he plays in year 4, that's fine. I mean, we'll bring him along slowly, but investing a 3rd round pick, you expect him to play in year 2.
Yeah, no doubt.
The only other defensive depth
this is interesting to me. This next one's interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. Josh Sweat, they rotated, but Josh Sweat was the first guy out there at left defensive end instead of Derek Barnett, but they did rotate. And there was even a time later in the practice where Barnett was out there before Sweat. I get it. We'll see if that really continues.
Yeah, I'm not sure you want to. You want your $10 million guy to be, a situational edge rusher, but yeah, I mean, I think situational
is. It's more than that. They might end up pretty even if one's a starter or not.
But it's still notable. It's notable to me that I think it probably says more about Sweat. I think they like Sweat.
And it's almost like maybe it's a little pat on the back for Josh Sweat, and maybe it's a little, hey, Derek Barnett.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. And as I was watching them today, and look, they're not even in full pads yet. That can't happen because the CBA dictates it until next week. But I'm watching the left tackles and I'm watching the right defensive end rotate. You realize that those left tackles are going to get good reps even when they're with the second team, because they're still going to see either Sweat or Barnett. So those 4 guys in any combination, it's more than just, sometimes the ones are going against each other, the same player is going against the same player every day. And by the end of it, you're like, I know every tendency, but at least they can split it up a little bit and they can see 2 guys instead of 1.
Yeah, it's true. It's going to be a fun to watch both sides of that battle, really, on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, those were the major depth chart notes, at least, first string. If you want to read some of the second string stuff, it's in the practice obs on the site. I don't want to get too deep into it here. Red zone, a lot of red zone today. It was mostly red zone, actually. And Nick Sirianni was asked about it, and he just said, well, that was just that's what we did today. But it was fun. It's a fun way to start camp, is seeing them go for touchdowns.
And I think it makes sense. Do you want a bunch of guys running go routes on the first day and pulling hammies? So you shorten the field, shorter practice, kind of get their feet wet, get started. It kind of does make sense. But yeah, it was fun to watch. There was some good action. You wrote about the 3 straight throws to DeVonta, which was pretty kind of the highlight, I thought, of the day, was that little sequence there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The first 2, he was lined up on Slay. The third one, he flipped fields to the right and lined up against Nelson. The first one, it was Jalen escapes. I think the rollout was designed. He rolls out to his left. It was a tight window, so he had really tight coverage in a tight field. And back corner of the end zone, tried to fire it in there. Slade knocks it down. Next play, I thought DeVonta got a little step on Slay. The ball was thrown behind him. Still a play I thought Smith could have made. It would have been a tough catch, but I think I'd call it a drop, a rare drop for him.
I probably wouldn't call it a drop because it was behind him. It was in the back of the end zone. It's a throw that I know Jalen would want back, but it's also a day 1 of training camp throw, and the first day that they've worked together. 11 on 11 ever, or at least in the NFL. So, um, but yeah, it was an exciting play because he did separate a little bit, and that was cool to see. Um, but yeah, you'd like to see him catch it, but I'm not sure I'd call it a drop. We'll have to check.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was still the first time I think I've seen a ball hit him that he hasn't caught. It was just
The
weird
very
to see.
first rep he took, the very first day of the very first practice, the very first one-on-one,
Was it the very first?
he dropped. Yeah,
Did
it
he?
was like 3 yard pass. But yeah, he catches everything. He'll next time they'll connect on that one.
Yeah. And the third one was on the far side of the field for me, but he was one-on-one against Steven Nelson. It looks like he just got a little bit of separation. Jalen hit him. It was a nice touchdown. Nice for him to get one. It was good that Jalen kept going back to him. I think that's important. Not that I think DeVonta Smith struggles with confidence, but I like that. I like that he's going back to him. You can tell they have a rapport. And I think that we're going to see a lot of that this year.
Yeah, yeah, you would hope so. Yeah, Slay stayed on the defensive right side, and Nelson was on the left side. Yeah, but it was a nice throw. That third one was a nice throw, and you got something positive out of it. But that's what these first days are going to be like. It's a process. It doesn't, it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, they're running these plays for the first time that they've ever run them. So, the first one, I don't think it really had any chance. Slay pretty much had it covered. The second one had a chance, and the third one they converted. So it was good work for both sides.
Yeah, and overall, I thought the defense had a better day than the offense, which isn't that unusual to start a training camp.
Pitchers ahead of the catchers.
Yeah, that's it's very similar to that. That's normally what happens. And you just brought up something that I didn't have in my notes, but I wonder if the presence of a real CB2 this year keeps Slay on his side more often. I wonder, because the drop off from Slay to Maddox was so great last year that, and obviously different defensive coordinator, but they traveled Slay because of that. The distance between him and Nelson isn't as great. So I wonder if they'll stick to their sides a little more.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. First day, and we kept hearing, Nick wanted to keep things simple on the first day. So maybe switching sides, maybe they're just not at that point yet. I think if there's an opponent where the first wide receiver, there's like a big, gap from WR1 to 2, I think he might travel with them, but we'll see. I would expect.
Yeah. Yeah, and they probably won't show that until games anyway.
Right.
Yeah. What else do I have here? Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham both made big plays today. Yep. Fletcher got a sack. He put Nate Herbig on skates, which, Herbig's still a big guy. It's not easy to push him. So Fletcher made a play. BG had a play that I thought they should have blown dead. I thought it should have been a sack, but they didn't. Hurts rolled out and threw it away. Two older guys giving it their all in training camp practice. It matters. I think they're still going to – two 30-year-old guys, 30 plus. I think BG's, 32?
33.
Fletcher's 33. Fletcher's 30. So they're going to need them. They're still going to rely on them this year. We'll see if – and Jason Kelsey was asked this, if there will be any kind of maintenance days. It was on my list of questions for Nick. We didn't get to it, but that's something to wonder.
Yeah, definitely. I think they would have to for guys like BG, Fletch, Kelsey. There's a few other guys in that group, maybe Kerrigan. 17-game season. It's going to be harder for everyone to get through it. And these aren't like the old two-a-days, but it's a lot to be out there. Especially once they're fully padded. So I would expect the older guys would get a day here and there. I'll be surprised if they don't. But again,
yeah, it makes sense.
It's a new offense and a new defense, so you also want to make sure they get enough work and get the teaching down and learn it. But with guys like them, you don't really worry about that stuff.
The most fun play of the day. It wasn't the best play of the day. Most fun.
It's great.
Tyree Jackson, who's a monster, listed as
6'7",
Yeah, he's listed as 6'7". You want to see him measured because you think he's taller. he catches a pass in the middle of the field and he truck sticks Rashad Smith, the linebacker. And I don't even think he like really meant to. I think it was
No.
just a big guy with a head of steam, and
Yeah.
he took him down.
Well, he didn't shy away from him. He, and this is a college quarterback, and he plowed into him and we got some oohs and ahs. That was a cool play. That was like welcome to training camp. It's like officially on now. That was a cool moment. He's a big dude, man.
Big dude. There's something there. Even if he doesn't make the roster, you think that he has developable skills that Jason Mike will want to keep him around. And you never know. It seems like maybe the Hakeem Butler experiment might be over. It looked today like he was exclusively with the receivers. Now that could have been because they had so many injuries and illness and all that they needed a receiver. But I wonder. We'll see when those other guys get healthy.
Yeah, but also I think if they really like Tyree Jackson, I don't think Hassan.
You don't want two projects?
I just don't think his status will affect that. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Anything else here that I have? I thought the best offensive play of the day, and I say without bias because it wasn't, we're not big names. I thought Nick Mullins had a really good pass to Adrian Killins on a little slant for a touchdown. Killins, by the way, has been working with the receivers, and that dates back to the spring. They're calling him a running back still. I think he's a receiver at this point.
Which doesn't augur well for him, undoing that negative 12 career yards per carry average.
Yeah, it's rough. Travis Fulgham had a chance. If he gets
a 20-yard gain, he'll be up to 4 yards a carry.
That's stuff only you love.
No, someone else somewhere loves that.
Travis Fulgham had a chance at the play of the day. He had a diving attempt in the back of the end zone on a pretty good pass from Hurts. Couldn't pull it in. It's one that I'm not going to say he should have. He's laying out diving, but that would have been a heck of a play. Yeah,
you'd like to, again, day one of camp, it would have been an incredible play. You like to see him make it, but it's certainly not. It's not a drop or anything like that.
Oh no, it was a harder degree of difficulty than the one DeVonta Smith didn't reel in.
Fair, yeah.
Defense, we said, had a good day. Josiah Scott picked off Jalen Hurts, took it the other way. It was a bad decision by Hurts. He threw it into a really congested area. Scott took it the other way. He's someone who has a chance to make this roster, by the way. They traded it for him, so they like him a little bit. And I thought overall the defense played well. TJ Edwards dropped a pick. Kayvon Wallace dropped one, but it was still a nice breakup. Clearly defense ahead of offense right now.
Yeah, and that's not a surprise to anybody. I mean, this is to a great extent, it's the same defense, a couple new players, but it's an entirely new offense. So
yeah. Those were my key observations. Did you have anything today that really stuck out to you?
No, like you said, I didn't think Jalen had a great day, but that's not surprising. It's certainly not concerning at this point. He knows he didn't have a great day. And,
the one thing I forgot.
Yeah.
We did see a 3-man front from the defense. They're in the red zone, so maybe it's a situational thing, but we've kind of talked about this and we've hinted at they're probably going to have some odd fronts, and they did. So we'll see how big of a part of the defense that'll be.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do some of it. Yeah. Mix things up, but yeah, I thought it was a good start. I was surprised how short it was, but it kind of makes sense day one, and I think they'll just kind of ramp it up until these first few days and until next week.
Yeah, that's all we have, right?
I guess so. You excited for the start of track and field tonight, Olympics?
Can't wait. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate.
Have you watched any of the Olympics?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the swimming. I watched gymnastics the other day. For me, the Olympics isn't like, I love the Olympics, don't get me wrong, but it takes me a while to get into it. Like I need star power for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I like I watched the entire table tennis quarterfinal between the woman from Singapore and the woman from Japan. It was a big upset. The 22 seed beat the 5 seed.
Who was who?
The woman from Singapore was a 22 seed, and she won.
Okay.
She lost the first game. It's best out of 7 games to 15, I think. And she lost the first one and then just killed her, and it's so quick. I mean, it was really fun to watch, and that team handball is a lot of fun too. I enjoyed that. Watched the triathlon, women's triathlon. I watched the replay on Peacock.
Company man, Peacock.
Oh yeah, on NBC Peacock, whatever. But yeah, I enjoy it. But looking forward to the track. Obviously.
What Summer Olympic sport, if like an average 25-year-old person started training for, not that they'd be able to do it, I'm not minimizing any of these sports, but if they started training now, what sport would they have the best chance to be an Olympian in the next Olympics?
Oh, that's a great question. Maybe volleyball.
Volleyball.
Yeah, if you're tall, I mean,
I guess.
I mean, I don't
There's
know.
a lot more to it than just putting your hand.
Yeah, like the how about like
I was thinking like archery. I feel like you could get good at archery in 4 years if that's all you did.
Yeah. Wasn't there a dude from Pemberton who was like an Olympic archer?
Was he an archer or a shooter?
Maybe he was a shooter. But yeah, I think shooting is probably, you probably if you give you 4 years, you could learn to fire a gun accurately, maybe.
I mean, look, you're not going to be an Olympian. I'm not saying that, but I think like the best chance. Yeah, something like that, like a repetitive.
You can anything like swimming or triathlon or track and field. You can rule out. So it would have to be an apparatus type, type thing.
Have you seen that like 3-on-3 street hoops basketball?
I haven't seen that yet. How was that?
Who's playing in that? Like, do you know the deal with that?
I don't. Like I said, I haven't seen that one yet. I want to watch a little bit of every sport before this thing's over, but I haven't seen the 3-on-3.
Okay. It's like 3-on-3 half court. Looks like what I used to, pick up games back.
Burlington County Times 3-on-3 at Wilbur Watts School.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Back in the day. You have to check that out.
All right. If you like the pod, do the stuff. We'll be back with you later this week and throughout training camp. Thanks, everyone.